What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. Will Brinson here, joined by Eric Cohen, Ken Brooks, and Alex Selznick, a.k.a. Propstarz. Proppy, you're still muted, just in case you're trying to give a shout-out. We have, we're going to give out some picks, like, in every possible fashion for this show. We actually did really well last night, I think. It was recapped on the earlier podcast for the Early Edge. You can check that out. But we have, I think, I mean, I haven't been covering the league as long as Pete Prisco, but I believe the first Friday game in Sao Paulo, Brazil, between the Packers and the Eagles. And as it happens, all three of the panelists, stars of the show here, are either Eagles or Packers fans. We have EC is a Packers fan. Prop and Ken's are Eagles fans. I mean, not to spoil it, but I'm a Packers fan tonight. No offense. So let's go. Let's get into the storylines first off the top. EC, I'm curious what you think, because I remember about this time last year, a buddy of mine, we're at a tailgate, NC State tailgate. He's like, hey, he's a Packers fan. He's like, what do you think about Jordan Love? And I was like, well, I think he's the guy, but he's going to be up and down. And by the end of the year, obviously, he looked like the guy. Is that the key storyline for you coming into this game as a Packers fan?
Yeah, I mean, the guy just got $55 million a year for playing one season and winning one playoff game. I mean, really, it's one of the most gross contracts in sports that I've ever heard of. And I like Jordan Love, and I wish him well as a Packer fan, but it's an absolutely gross, disgusting contract. Jalen Hurts is making $51 million a year, which is also gross, but he made the Super Bowl and probably should have won the Super Bowl. I was at the game, and he probably should have beaten Kansas City that night. Jordan Love won in Dallas, and I don't know if that's saying a heck of a lot. So, yeah, I kind of want to see what he does tonight. And if he flops, I don't know if I can really care, because the game's in Brazil, and as long as everybody comes back healthy and gets on the flight gets back home, I'm good with that. But, yeah, I'm a little concerned about all of it, I'll be honest.
All right, so the Packers win total went over in 4 of the 5 seasons under Matt LaFleur, Kens. Do you see them going over 9.5 in 2024? Obviously, last year was like, well, was it Aaron Rodgers? Was it LaFleur? And it certainly looked like it might be, more LaFleur than Rodgers with the way Jordan Love played down the stretch.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this team objectively got better when Aaron Rodgers left, right? I mean, I look at those last 11 games of the season is the best way I want to look at it. You look at, they have a very fixable weakness, which is they need to score more points at home. They had a negative point differential at home. Sue me to believe that that's something they can figure out given the last 11 games of that season. I was just on SportsLine or Primetime Pregame, whatever you want to call it now, talking about how I think he could lead the league in passing touchdowns. Jordan Love at 13-1 just feels like a crazy line for somebody who was averaging 2.27 passing touchdowns down the stretch. So I think they have a good shot at maybe winning the division. I think they have a little bit of a schedule edge over Detroit and a lot easier fixable weakness.
Prop, how are you? You look at this Packers team. Is it a 10-win team that competes for the division, or is it maybe a team that regresses a little bit from that late season success?
I think they're a major regression candidate. Personally, I think everything broke right for Green Bay last season, starting with Jordan Love playing well above expectations. I look at this roster offensively. I think they're mediocre. Personally, I think the offensive line is middling. I think Josh Jacobs was arguably the least efficient starting running back in the NFL last year. We look at the receiving options. They all played above expectations. They don't have a true number one. I think that ultimately will hurt them as defenses become a little bit more familiar with them. Defensively, I thought they played well, but again, I don't look at this as like a bona fide top 10 unit. So I think this Green Bay team, everything went right for them last season, and it was best case scenario in a lot of categories. I don't see that happening this year. The division is way tougher. I think Detroit is the class of the division here. I think they're a major regression candidate. I love the under, personally, a 9.5 wins at plus money.
So my biggest qualm with the taking it just being Love is going to win MVP, the Packers are going to win the NFC North, is the splits from last season. And if you look at it, this to me this is wild. So after the first 9 games, GM Brian Gutekunst was asked by the media, is Jordan Love your franchise quarterback? And he legitimately, you go find the quote. He said, we don't really know yet. There's going to be a lot that's proven down the stretch, and we'll figure that out. the first 9 games of the season, the Packers go 3-6, and it's on the screen. You can see it. He completed less than 60% of his passes, 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. This is a guy who's a middling NFL starter at best. Maybe somebody might be replaced. And then the last 10 games of the season, they go 7-3, 70% completion, increase of almost 40 yards passing per game, 23. This includes the playoff game, by the way. 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If you take out the playoff game and you prorate his second half stats across 17 games, it's like 38 touchdowns, 2 interceptions for a full season. He would be unanimous MVP. And so that's my whole thing is he was so streaky at Utah State, and he was streaky when he started coming to the NFL. There's a reason why he fell in the draft. The Packers, famously traded up for him. It's worked out for them, but it's hard for me to believe that this player has ironed out the streaks and that he's just going to be this consistent dominant force. But then again, I mean, the Packers did it with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, who were, maybe a little inconsistent when they first started out.
Yeah, but Brinson, look at their schedule too. I think you might see the same thing again this year. After the bye week in week 10, I can make an argument that Green Bay has 8 games left, and I think you could make an argument 7-1. You could see another, a rough start, and everybody's questioning that $55 million a year, like I am right now. And then after the break, then they go out. If they go and beat Chicago, because they always beat Chicago, and then you beat the 49ers right after that. I mean, you could make an argument they could be favored in every game the rest of the way at that point and go 8-0. Just saying.
It's a little streaky down the stretch. Not so streaky. Well, the Eagles were streaky down the stretch, just streaky.
I don't know,
into
streaky. I would just say
they
bad.
they were. If you could make like a I'm going to say the word potty, but I have a 10-year-old, so I'm allowed to say potty. Otherwise, a grown man saying potty is not acceptable. But you can make a potty joke here with whatever you want to do. But they were streaking into the toilet is what they were doing. And I mean, they went 1-6 and 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games, including that abysmal playoff loss to Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. It's the longest active against the spread losing streak in the NFL, and Philly's longest since an 8-game streak back in 94 and 95 when I was in middle school. Can the Eagles, I guess the question is, can the Eagles break out of that? I think one of the interesting things, Lane Johnson was on the Dan Patrick show this offseason and talked about that San Francisco 49ers game where the Niners just bludgeoned them, got NFC Championship revenge. And I think what he said was really interesting, which is where we would play the video of the.
Okay. Explain to me what happened the last, 6-8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as film piles up, and I feel like really after the 49ers game where, it's kind of them dismantling us, I felt like teams kind of piggybacked off that. So I don't know if it was something we were doing with our scheme-wise. Maybe the teams were on to what we were running. But it was a lot more difficult than what it needed to be because you've seen what the offense has been, and then you see that stretch, and it's, what's going on.
So, Prop, we get rid of Brian Johnson. I'm saying, Ben Johnson. I get Ben Johnson and Brian Johnson really screw my head up. We get rid of Brian Johnson. They ran almost no motion last year. You bring in Kellen Moore, who runs a ton of motion, allegedly going to move Devonta Smith into the slot where he's been one of the top receivers in the league by advanced metrics. Do you buy that was sort of an aberration of just everybody figured out their offense, followed what the Niners did, beat the snot out of them down the stretch, and the Eagles are going to bounce back this year?
I think it was a combination of things. I think first and foremost, I think the locker room was lost late in the season last year. I also do think that Brian Johnson was really struggling. It was a vanilla offense. You mentioned not motion heavy whatsoever. We know Miami, for instance, the McDonald offense, 70% motion. I think the Eagles were at 33% last year. So it was a very vanilla, bland offense. I don't think that will be the case with Kellen Moore. I expect that number to be close to 55 to 60%. And I just think they'll buy in a lot more to this Kellen Moore offense. And I think defensively as well, we saw the Eagles defense crater last season. Vic Fangio, much more respected defensive coordinator there as well. I think these are massive upgrades at the coordinator positions. And I also think the Eagles went out, added a lot of key pieces in free agency. They had a phenomenal offseason, an excellent draft as well. I think they have contributors on all 3 levels of the defense. They locked up their core offensive players as well. Everyone's under contract as far as the main guys are concerned. Jalen Hurts, Devontae, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley. So I think the Eagles team will be much better direction this season. I think they have a ton of talent top to bottom as well. I think they'll buy into the system.
But let's not forget Matt Patricia. I mean, it's like he turned to Matt Patricia, who had, I mean, what a career arc for a one time, guy who's like, he's going to be the guy on the Belichick tree. He gets the Lions job, fired by them. He ends up, comes back as a defensive analyst. Then he becomes the OC or de facto OC in New England. Then he becomes the DC after he takes over last year in Philly. And now he's hosting a podcast. Like, way to go, buddy. Like you were falling, were falling far.
I would take that money to stink and call bad plays and be awful. Yeah, I mean, I could do that.
Are you talking about hosting a podcast? I mean, I do that right now.
No,
that's the problem.
Being a coach and having losing teams. You can pay any of us, and we could do the same thing for that kind of money, Yeah.
No. Oh, yeah. I'll jam a pencil behind my ear and call cover zero that gets torched every time. EC, yeah, there you go. You're basically Matt Patricia now. Well, what do you think about the Eagles this year in terms of their win total and expectations there in Philly?
I think they're the best team in the NFC. Call me crazy. Wow. I really do. I picked them in the Super Bowl. And I also have them against the Ravens. And we saw Baltimore has some flaws we saw last night. But I think in the NFC, I think you're going to see a Super Bowl hangover from the 49ers. I think the Lions are perpetually the Lions, so I'm not going to trust them to do anything. I don't think the Packers are ready yet. The Cowboys are going to fire Mike McCarthy at some point. So as we narrow it down, I mean, the NFC South stinks. So basically that leaves the Eagles left. So Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. I think we're going to see Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson and a bunch of running quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. And there you go. And then you guys are, Ken's and Proppy are happy, and the rest of us can bet on it and be happy.
But so interestingly enough, and I only know this because 2 years ago, I picked the Eagles and the Ravens to meet in the Super Bowl, and the Eagles actually did make it. So I looked smart. Ravens did not. If the Eagles and Ravens meet in the Super Bowl, it will be, and I'm not joking when I say this, the first ever all bird Super Bowl. There's never been two bird mascots that squared off in the Super Bowl. These are the reasons that they give me this mic in the top left corners. I know about birds.
That's why they pay you the big bucks, Brinson.
Right. That's why they've been paying me the little bucks for a long time here.
The Battle of I-95
at the Tiffany Network. Yeah. Kids, are you? I mean, I guess it's not tough being objective about a team you like, but I do think. I mean, the only time I'm like a recovering Panthers fan. I'm just whatever. I don't care. But 2015, I mean, I was like, I'm back. I was like on the field of the NFC Championship game. I'm like, I love the Panthers. Like, it's easy. I think it's harder to separate, fan from fiction when the team is good. And I think the Eagles will be good. I feel like their floor is probably 9-8, right?
Yeah, I agree. My concern is these rookies in the secondary taking a few weeks to get their feet under them. I think the world of them. Shout out Cooper DeJean, big fan. I just think they could get cooked by some of these guys early on. That is where I hesitate. And again, just losing Jason Kelce in the locker room, what does that really look like? So I try to be, I wouldn't say glass half empty about this team. I'm just emotionally cautious when it comes to them. The Bulldogs, Georgia Bulldogs, I have no emotional bearings or walls there, but the Eagles, they've emotionally damaged me a few times now, so I really try to keep a good wall up.
I mean, but at this point, aren't like the Eagles just the Georgia Bulldogs, but it's like grad school? I mean,
you got to see my sweatshirt. It's awesome. It's the hybrid of the Bulldog and the Eagle. I wore it to work today.
That's pretty fantastic.
That draft was my junior year when they got like 6 of them. Best night of my life. I was like, guys, they just keep coming.
I mean, it's pretty smart by Howie Roseman. He's like, I'm just going to draft Alabama and Georgia players. They're the best players.
And suddenly we were a great football team. I'm like, yeah, maybe if you just draft from the SEC, things will go really well for you.
I think SEC bias. Here we go.
Yeah,
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with NC State too. Which I mean, at least you've got 2 natties. I mean, I've got like people before. It's like people are like, what's the greatest moment in NC State history that you've experienced? I was like, well, the 0-1 Gator Bowl. We beat Notre Dame. I mean, it's like it's just sad. But I think one more thing just on the Eagles narrative really quickly. I think it's being wildly undersold the loss. And I know that they have Jordan Davis. And then I'm drawing a blank on who's the new
Carter.
Jalen Carter.
No,
Yeah.
the new center, Juergens. Is it Juergens?
Cam Jurgens.
Cam Jurgens, yeah. Like, you lose Jason Kelsey, who is a surefire, bona fide Hall of Famer, stone cold lock, even before the $100 million podcast. And you use Fletcher Cox, who's the defensive backbone of that team. I think there's maybe a little bit of adjustment period for the Eagles to start off this season, just getting used to not having those guys, like the presence of those guys, not just on the field, but in the locker room and around the franchise. I think that's a bigger deal than is being given credit for, to me.
I think Fletcher Cox had begun to tail off towards the end. I think the last couple of years he was just a rotational lineman. I agree, he did have a big presence in the locker room. As far as Kelsey is concerned, Cam Jurgens is his heir apparent. He was a big part of Cam Jurgens being drafted. I also think you have a lot of veteran leadership still with a guy like Lane Johnson, to keep things cohesive. So I do think that Kelsey being out, does hurt the locker room a bit, but I do think it could be a bit overstated as well.
And there was a little chatter, I think, in the Athletic too, that it was Kelsey who was pointing out all the coverages and the blitz, like where blitzes were coming from, and so that's for Jurgens, it's not just being on the field and playing the role of center, but also trying to help out Jalen Hurts in that regard. So we will certainly find out starting tonight. Let's get to tonight's game. Ken, do you want to kick us off with a model projection?
Yeah, I'll kick you off with the model projection. So it's kind of going back and forth here. Just some recent changes now, because originally we made some adjustments based off the new kickoff rules and things like that, but we realized it really wasn't making that much of a difference as of right now. So right now, I would give Philly like a 51% chance to cover this spread right now, minus the 2. We make this game pretty even because of the fact, oh, my ring light's coming back. Thank you. We make this game pretty even because of the fact that you have 2 awesome star receivers on Philly, and then you have like 4 to 5 average looking starters on the other side of the ball, which end up evening out here. So it could be a close game. I do lean towards the over, but the fact of playing in Brazil and we're not really sure what's going on there makes me hesitate towards, but I have to take a pick. I go Philly and I take the over.
What about you, EC?
All right, listen, I'm a Packer fan. I'm excited for this game tonight. I think it's going to be fun. Kind of lean towards the over, but it's a little high for me to bet. I think Philly's going to win. And I know I got crushed for that on the prop show. It's just a bad look.
You're
for
wearing a Packer shirt. Like you're wearing a Packer shirt and picking the Eagles to win.
Here's what I think: Philly's going to win 27-24. I think Philly is the better team. I think Green Bay is going to play well. I think this game's going to be close. But I don't really care. Like, this is not a game. It's in Brazil. Just stay healthy, get back. Then we'll worry about it in the United States next week. Then I can overreact to Jordan Love and his contract. Don't go out and throw 5 interceptions. Keep the game close. I think Philly wins. I hate this line at -2. If it was like 3.5, maybe I'd play Green Bay, or 4.5. But it's a bad line to bet as far as I'm concerned, unless you feel really good about, I don't know. I figure I'll take the money line, let Philly win by 1, and then we all win, right?
That's called hedging happiness over there, EC. I respect it.
You nailed it, Ken. That's exactly what I'm doing. Hedging happiness.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna have like 10 units on Tennessee on Saturday. Just like
you probably should, because they're gonna win. Yeah, NC State has no chance to win. None.
Well, I wouldn't say we have no chance. We
None.
have like
I call it no chance myself.
Okay. All right.
98.
I'll see y'all Sunday night.
2%.
Maybe I will go down there on tomorrow and watch us get our ass kicked in front of 40,000 orange-clad fans screaming rock. The only thing more obnoxious than, and I went to boarding school in Tennessee, and like the only thing more obnoxious than Rocky Top are those friggin' cowbells from Mississippi State. I mean, my God, have you ever been to a game? It is unbearable to be walking into a stadium with Mississippi State. They're just clang left and right. It's just stop. What do you have all these damn cowbells?
Totally
Rob, who you got in the game?
I have got the Eagles in the game, going full homer with the pick. I think Green Bay is significantly overrated. I think they're going to be a bit one-dimensional, too. I think they're going to have trouble running the football on this Eagles stout front seven. And I do think the Eagles have enough to get it done on the neutral site.
I'm going to be the lone dissenter here. Max Profits asks, what do we think about the Green Bay defense? I think that's kind of a wild card here. because Joe Barry was despised by Packers fans for years and essentially just sort of gave up on the, like, if you want to run, run the ball, do whatever you want in the run game. And I think Jeff Hafley is it Hafley or Hafley? I can't remember. Hafley. Yeah. I mispronounce literally everything. So I just kind of go with it. This guy who, like, now I think it's a bit overrated. He was probably getting close to being fired by Boston College. He was sort of wearing out his welcome, but he was still left a head coaching job, like in a Power 5 at the time conference, to go and be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. And it got spun as, well, I'm just tired of NIL and I just want to coach, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, I think he's an upgrade. I think he's going to send a ton of blitzes at Jalen Hurts. And I do think that Cam Jurgens factor, the lack of Kelsey and sort of what you can do to Hurts sometimes, could potentially give these guys an opportunity to get after Hurts, maybe create a turnover. And I think on the other side of the ball, Ken's mentioned it. This is the Eagles did what they needed to do and got better in the secondary, but these are young guys. And I would push back a little bit on the 4 average players. I think Christian Watson is a star if his hamstrings cooperate. Dontavian Wicks, maybe a star if he actually gets on the field, but he and Watson may rotate in and out. And then Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs. I mean, this is a really good young core. Now, none of them are like a AJ Brown. Don't get me wrong. But I do think, maybe not even Devontae Smith, I do think that these guys can make an impact against that Eagles secondary. I got the Pack go. I got the Packers winning, and I am all in. I did a bunch of DFS lineups, and it's all Josh Jacobs and Christian Watson at captain. I think they're going to show off Jacobs.
Hey, Brinson, I got one for you. I just heard this one. So we can see some NFL history tonight with Josh Jacobs. I didn't realize this.
Oh, the reception thing. Yeah.
Yeah. If he catches 5 passes tonight, he will be the all-time leader in the NFL in career catches without a single touchdown.
It's amazing. Like,
whoa.
I'm curious too what we think about Jacobs, and maybe we can get to it. I don't know if he's going to be on our player prop list, but there's this idea that Matt LaFleur doesn't want to have a workhorse and doesn't want to feed somebody the ball like as a workhorse. I don't know. I think that might change up a little bit, especially tonight with Marshawn Lloyd is inactive. So they have Emmanuel Wilson as their only backup, and he's been banged up. I think this might be, hey, we paid Josh Jacobs. Let's give him 30 carries and just feed this dude and see what happens in that run game. All right. Props. Prop can be involved in props. Let's get to top player props. I just said prop way too many times for my good. Prop. What is your top player prop?
Yeah, my top prop, I'm backing Saquon Barkley. I'm going over 66.5 rushing yards against this Packers defense that is a significant run funnel last season in particular. I also think Saquon being on the Eagles, this is by far the best team that he's been a part of. I think he'll have a lot bigger running lanes. If we look at a lot of the advanced metrics, his elusive rating, the breakaway yards, they were all very good while he was a member of the Giants last season. So I think that we're going to still see a prime Saquon on this new team with a significantly improved offensive line and just the skill positions around him. Also having a dual threat quarterback, I think, will open up additional running lanes. I think he's going to break off a couple big yards or big gains in the process tonight against this Packers run funnel defense. So give me Saquon to go over 66.5 rushing yards. I played up to 69.5.
And sorry, I blocked out the graphic there, but Sean Ritchie asked, are you thinking of laddering him at all? And if anybody has any questions who's watching in the chat about any props, any player, any sort of, now very good time to ask, and we will answer. How high would you ladder Saquon if you were going to I love laddering. It's like if somebody starts going nuts, you were just
yeah. I think he has triple-digit upside in this matchup. I also like his longest rush category as well, so that's another category for Saquon I'd look to back him on. But yeah, I think laddering him in this matchup definitely a good look. I think the Eagles will get him the ball 15 to 18 times, especially if it's a competitive matchup.
Kids, what does the model like from a player prop perspective?
The model is all over Saquon as well. We have him upwards of 73 rushing yards here. We talked about that Packers defense, a lot more vulnerable on the road, allowing 4.8 yards per carry, around 140, 150 rushing yards as well. And I agree. When we look at Saquon Barkley, when he had Daniel Jones healthy in 2022, he was averaging 82 yards a game. And that's because when he had a quarterback that was also a running threat that made it very difficult for defenses. And when he wasn't that at the end of 2023, that's why we saw him only averaging 69 yards on the ground. So I think with Jalen Hurts healthy right now, at least we can say for week one, having the two of them together makes it very difficult for a defense. So I think they will have a pretty good time on the ground here. And then we also like Mr. Kenny Gainwell. Listen, I love to go deep down the line and get some RB2s here. We have him projected for 5 rush attempts. The line over at BetMGM, just 3.5. So it's pretty solid value here. The situation with him is we saw with DeAndre Swift in his first year last year with the Eagles as well. When they have a new RB1, they like to get him in the game. He gets a lot of reps in, oddly, in these first few weeks. So I wouldn't necessarily play this in the middle of the season, but for right now, I would. I don't think they want to put Will Shipley in yet. I think he's vulnerable for pass protection reasons. So I think if there's anyone, when Saquon's getting a break, it's going to be Mr. Kenny Gainwell here. And then Jordan Love. This is an interesting one because I do think he has a great game, but I don't think he's going to have all these short little passes. I just think he's going to go under his pass completion. There are a lot of other things I like about him here, but that's not exactly his game. And again, you don't pay Josh Jacobs to come here, and you don't draft Marshawn Lloyd if you don't plan on running the ball to get up to the red zone or to the end zone, if that. So I think you can have a great game. I just don't think it'll be a ton of short passes.
Interesting. And he's a guy too, where in Jordan Love, I mean, he takes deep shots. So you can get the yardage, you can get the scores without actually getting the completions. EC, what are you looking at from a prop perspective?
Brinson, I think the sports books did us a very solid. They're giving away free money tonight. As far as I'm concerned, Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown, -110. Normally I like these at plus money, but this is so good. He had 11 rushing touchdowns in 17 regular season games last year. If you go back a few years, it's something like 23 out of 36 games. I mean, that should be a -140 or 150 line, and they're giving it to us at -110. I don't care that Jason Kelsey's gone. They're going to still run the tush push. Green Bay's still not going to stop it. Jalen Hurts is going to eat up those 1-yard touchdowns, and he may get multiple tonight, but we're just going to start with one at -110.
Yeah, and like the thing about that too, with this particular game, when you have a receiver as big, I mean, AJ Brown is the grown-ass man, right? I mean, he's prime for defensive pass interference in the end zone. And then it's just line up on the one, Hurts right at the middle, and you get that score. Mine, by the way, we'll get to a couple in the chat as well. If you have any questions for the chat, in the chat, ask them. We will answer. Christian Watson, to me, free money. Healthy Christian Watson and his longest reception total is 18.5. He went over this in 6. No, he only played in 9 games last year, so that's sort of the issue. But he went over this in 6 of 9 games last year, and then one of the ones he went under was 17 yards. This is a guy who they just take deep shots to him. You go through and like he averages like 30 yards per catch sometimes during some of these games because he is such a burner down the field, and the skill set matches perfectly with what Jordan Love does. I've seen it. It looks like it's juiced at -125. I think I actually bet it at 19.5. Anything under 20 is fine for me. I think he cruises over that easily. If I won't have to worry about explaining it publicly until Sunday if he hits 19 on the nose. But yeah, so I think I'm okay with that. We've got let's see, someone asked about Jordan Love rush yards over under 7.5. Oh, anybody have a thought? I feel like, I mean, just sort of blindly, like off the top of my head, that feels good. But then I also think they will run the ball a ton and try not to let him get out there and move too much. He can run, but I don't know. That feels like a trap, honestly.
It's a bet you can find a lot better on the board. I think Ken's gave out 3, Proppy gave out 1, you gave out 1. I gave out 1 that are better plays than this, among others.
I feel like this was a play I liked at the end of last season, but it's not something I'd certainly look for in week 1, given Josh Jacobs as well. I'd like to see a game before I get behind. I think he likes to get mobile, but I don't think it exactly correlates to gaining yards. Like I think he's avoiding the pass rush. I wouldn't necessarily call that rushing yards.
Yeah, he's sort of the same way that Aaron Rodgers was. You feel like he's always running around, but he's really just running left and right. Just very quickly bringing up his game logs. I know game log, scouting is not the best thing to do in the world, but yeah, I mean, we had several. All of his games where he went over were almost essentially all last year. Obviously, his first year starting, but it does look like you're right, Ken, sort of as the season wears on, maybe more likely to run. And I think too, this is a big game. It's a huge game. They want to win. I don't think they're treating it the way the Ravens treated the Chiefs game last night, where Lamar's selling out no matter what to try and win the game. I think they will be far more concerned with protecting their quarterback than they are with telling Jordan Love to run a bunch unscripted and get hit, especially since he just got paid. One more. This isn't a question, but I like this. Tucker Kraft active now. Surprising week 1, 13.5 receiving yards. Not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, but I mean,
we haven't projected for 21 yards.
Oh, that's a pretty good margin. It's pretty good.
You just don't know how much is he going to play over Musgrave, though. Like, it makes sense. I get it. What's his usage? Not 100% healthy, especially, Yeah,
no, I mean, it's definitely a risk. And if the Packers got any sort of lead between 10 and 14 points, I think you're going to see Tucker Kraft on the sidelines, and they won't risk him. But he certainly came back faster than most people expected, especially everybody who drafted Luke Musgrave in best ball. All right.
This team to me reminds me of literally, it feels like betting on the Boston Celtics, where you don't know who's going to go off that night. And there's a lot of different guys that it could be that guy. That's how I feel about these Packers receivers and the weapons. It's there's a lot that are probably going to get around the same amount of targets, and it's really hard to figure out which ones to pinpoint.
That's actually really good comp. Yeah.
It's a fun comparison. The thing is, the Celtics actually have stars in Tatum and Jaylen Brown, whereas Green Bay, it's Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks.
Play just a little bit above average tonight.
Oh, there you go. I'm all for it. Please let Green Bay win this game, please. I hope I'm wrong on not all of it, but just so Jalen Hurts runs it and Green Bay wins.
Over 2.5 turnovers, even money.
I think this game's on the ground.
Do you think it's going what?
On the ground. I don't know if we're getting turnovers.
Both teams paid their running backs a lot of money this offseason. They will probably want to feature them. That's a very good point. Okay, let's get to the models. Anytime touchdown predictions. I should note before you give these out, Kens, that a friend of mine watched the show last night, took all 3 of the models, anytime touchdown picks, put them into a parlay with several other things, and that parlay did very, very well. I don't. If Jake wants to throw it up there, he sent this to me. So Lamar over rushing yards, and we had that on the show. Ken said that. Rashad Bateman over receiving yards. Got there late. I had that one. I don't know where you got Rashee Rice or Justin Watson on the nose, but $10 into 3,600. Hello, let's go. Okay,
he was that guy. He was definitely that guy. I thought it was going to be a 2 tight end set. I didn't know it was just going to be the Isaiah Likely show, but I'll take that too.
I saw some stuff floating out there on Twitter. It was people were they had Xavier Worthy 2 touchdowns and Isaiah Likely 2 touchdown parlays. It's oh man, I mean, you literally lose it by that much. Okay, anyway, we'll probably throw the models picks for anytime touchdown in another parlay, or at least my friend will for this evening. What is the model like? Who are we looking at?
Yeah, we're gonna break it down here. I mean, the Josh Jacobs one, it just feels like he is going to be one of the stars of this offense here. And even if everyone's getting so confused, that defense and that secondary all involved in the receivers, it might be a good spot for him to get in the end zone. And then you look at Romeo Doubs, I want to point out, he's probably one of my favorite anytime touchdown scores because he makes up for about 25% of the receiving touchdowns on this team. And we have Jordan Love projected for 2 touchdowns. So a little 1-2 math here gives him a 50% chance of a touchdown. So to get 225 on, in our eyes, 50-50 coin flip bet feels like pretty good value there. And same with Christian Watson. Again, if it's not Dobbs, to me, it's going to be Watson. So to get close to plus 200 on him as well, it just feels like it's a game of which receiver. I feel like you could maybe bet on all 4 of these receivers and probably profit if you get 2 or 3. Or
it's 1. Actually not that crazy. I like all those. I think with the Watson thing, you see at least 1 to 2 deep targets. And if he gets behind that secondary, waltzing into the end zone, Jacobs is going to get fed near the goal line. I'm not that worried about Emmanuel Wilson stealing carries. They like to use him in the preseason. I'm not sure they trust him. And I think we've seen Jacobs be an absolute workhorse for the Raiders before. And then Dobbs, the one, and we'll get to it, but I think Jaden Reed is kind of interesting because they run him in the red zone a lot. Like when they get like on that fringe of the 20, they're willing to give him sort of those jet sweeps and stuff. And so you can get there with a reception or a rushing touchdown. John asks, Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown. Anything there, EC, or from the model case?
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. The Barkley anytime touchdown price is, around even money. I guess it's fine. It's his first game. Maybe Philly will do that. But do you really trust? They get down to the 1 yard line. Kens, what are they going to do? If they get down to the 1. You're, as an Eagles fan, what are they going to do?
I'm going to do a little tush push.
Exactly. So you need Saquon Barkley to score outside the 5. If you believe he's going to score outside the 5, go ahead, lay the even money. I would save my money there. I'd go bet any of those 3 props that Ken's put up from the model instead.
Yeah. And it's like, if he gets the ball at the 5 and he runs for 4 yards, they're probably lining up and Hurts is just sneaking in. I mean, they're not going to mess around. Yeah, they want to prop Saquon up, but to what extent versus just scoring touchdowns? And then
but see, you don't have to worry about a handoff. Literally, it's the tush push is like the easiest. Jalen Hurts is good at it. If the new center can get leverage, yeah, you do. I mean, Jason Kelce was great at it, but you don't risk the handoff, fumbling, all that. Just simple. I don't see Saquon Barkley getting very many 1 yard touchdowns this year.
Fair.
All right.
I can't believe I get to see this in live time again. The tush push on my TV. It's going to fuel my serotonin.
Are we tush push and not brotherly shove? Is that where we're at?
I play for both.
Okay,
I'm cool with either.
Yeah. I mean,
I will say this, Ken's. I will say this. I had in the Super Bowl when they were playing Kansas City. I was sitting in the end zone watching the first touchdown when they played, and they did the tush push, and just watching them do it. I took a video on my phone of it. It is like a work of art. It really is like a work of art watching it. And you're like, this is such a little rugby scrum play. It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. 7th wonder of the world. Is that how they say it?
Well, and like Juergens has gotten the stamp of approval from Kelce. Kelce's like, this guy's going to be fine. He's going to be great, which leads you to believe that they'll be able to do it with the same success.
Jason Kelce says anything, and I'm behind it. That guy should be our president.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, we can get into his serial discussions, but yes, Jason. Yeah. Did you hear him? Like he was on Chris Long's Greenlight Pod. He said Kylie Kelce, his wife, has instituted a mandatory 3 workout per week situation because she's like, you're a total jerk when you don't work out. And they sort of had a discussion about how it's post when you retire as an athlete, you're so used to working out every day that if you don't, you're just kind of like,
fair. That makes sense to me now that I think about it. He needs the structure.
Sunshine, serotonin, all good things. BetMGM is all the action for every sports fan. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get a first bet offer up to $1,500. If your first bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets with bonus code EDGE1500. That's EDGE, EDGE 1500. Okay. EC prop had it. For those wondering, we didn't throw Pop out of here. He had to go. He had to bounce for some other CBS work, which puts EC in charge of the same game parlay. You're going to cook up like a 100-1 12-legger or something like that?
I mean, we'll save that for Monday night, Brinson. I mean, I want to start. Producer Jake got on my case. He's like, this is too easy. I mean, I figure a plus 400. Here's the deal. I think this game's going to be within a touchdown. So there you go. That's our first 2 legs. The over-under, I don't see this anything less than 23-20 on one side or the other. So there's our 42.5. And I think both these quarterbacks air it out a little bit. Jordan Love, I think 250. I'd probably go up to 250. And I think Jalen, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I mean, one of those guys is going to go off. Maybe this is Devontae's night. But I think one of those guys could get 100 yards. Just depends on who Jair Alexander's guarding and who the other guys are guarding. I think 225 is a pretty fair deal there. So, I mean, if you think this is close game, moderate scoring, and the quarterbacks have some action, yeah, at plus 400, I think we could start the parlay, the same game parlay, out with a victory here. What do you think?
I mean, I think this is it's a potential just like perfectly smacked ground rule double, right? I mean,
yeah.
We're not
going for home runs tonight.
Yeah. I mean, look, hey, 4-1. 4-1 is great. I mean, I think in this day and age of like just being shot with the same game parlay cannon over and over and over again, it's easy to be like 4-1. That's gross. But I mean, 4-1 is great. You're literally getting you give somebody $1 and you get $4 back.
But here's the thing. I mean, yeah, I'm gross with the parlays. Like I'll do like 10-1 and 15-1. I just wanted to keep it. This is the first show. I mean, I'm already going to be a nervous wreck watching the game. I figure I just needed a little bit of action and, throw a unit on it and you could make 4 units and we start the season off with a profit. I'm good with that.
I dig it. I mean,
that's a bad idea.
Yeah. And you got it's what is this called with is this a double reverse pleaser? Like when you push the spread, I guess it's a double it's a double teaser parlay.
No, it's like I think the game's going to be within 7 points. So I played the same thing last night on my own where I thought the game would be within 7 points, and I was right. So you just play 7.5. I don't have a feel on who's going to – I mean, I like the Eagles, but I can't tell you I bet my house on it. So, okay, I think it's going to be – yes, thank you. Thank you, Jake. I have a problem. I love my parlays. You know that. And so we'll cook up some interesting ones throughout the year, but we'll start small.
I mean, I think, too, something can be said for if you have two anywhere above average to good NFL teams playing each other, just the way that the rules are set up, you're pretty unlikely to see a blowout. And so if you're getting 7.5 on both sides, you have a really good chance of it just landing at 7, even if it's a backdoor, garbage touchdown or something like that.
All right, wait, Ken's, do you think that hits right there? That 5 pick that I gave out, are you feeling good about that?
I do feel good about that. I was double checking you with the model here, and I think Jalen Hurts maybe just sneaks over that passing yard attempt or yard over, but I like that. I do think it's definitely within 7 points. So
okay,
I'm in on that. Everybody wins. We both win.
By the way,
model and Ken's. Yeah.
Did y'all see I think the NFL tweeted out, but it was it's the Eagles fan, but he's got a cheese head on, but it's wrapped in Philadelphia cream cheese. So it's a cream cheese head, but it's like a Philly. It's pretty clever.
I love our
Brinson, I have a question. I haven't seen what the uniforms look like. Are they allowed to wear green? I know there was some controversy about that. Do we know somebody wearing green tonight?
Packers are in green. Eagles have some green on the uniforms. I think the whole controversy was what's the name of this? I swear I'm not this
Brazil.
stupid usually. No, I know the country, the stadium they're playing
We're going to Brazil, Brinson.
Is it on Earth? Anyway, the stadium they're playing in, the home team, their chief rival wears green. So people who are there usually associate green with the opponents that they dislike. It'd be like if Man City came and played. Well, so for me, Man City came and played at Carter Finley Stadium, wearing their all powder blue kits, and it would look like Carolina out there. That it's just that. So there's no actual like danger. I don't think, because that's what I was.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I mean,
unreliable.
I don't think anybody would care if Carter Finley Stadium, if Man City, they're all like, cool, Man City's playing, which is that you would think the fans in Sao Paulo would feel about that. Hey, cool, we got 2 NFL teams that are actually pretty good playing here. Let's not.
I mean, for the record, there would definitely be some drunk rednecks who were like, "Get them cutters off the field." I mean, that's how it would go, All right.
Someone commented EC and Brinson together is trouble, and that had me thinking, like, this is probably the most unserious group that SportsLine could have put together, the 3 of us in one show. How far should be?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're
welcome to the party.
Live. Yeah, we're live on. Yeah. This is, I mean, I'm here for unseriousness. I am serious about my first touchdown picks though.
Yes.
And it looks like I'm matching up with the model here, or at least Kenz's pick. We both have Jaden Reed, mentioned before. Red zone, getting the carry sometimes, could catch a quick pass, a swing pass. I wouldn't be shocked if they line it up at the backfield in a passing formation. Am I kind of spot on with that at 12-1?
Yeah, I'm just going. I mean, I think it's one of the few. It's like just pick your poison and not too much to overthink about it here. Hopefully, all the eyes are on Christian Watson, Josh Jacobs, and we just get our boy Jaden Reed in the end zone.
Yeah.
And again, have to hedge the happiness here. No way I was going to take a Philadelphia Eagle for the first touchdown.
Oh, come on.
Start a little slow. We're always a little slow to start. Okay. Second half.
I will note, I put in the rundown that I sprinkled a little bit on Will Shipley at 40-1. I'm a Shipley stan. I think you're 100% correct, Kens, about him not being out there because of the pass pro stuff, and they'll want Kenny Gainwell. But I wouldn't be shocked if they were, in that, 10 to 20 range, whatever, the not green zone, and Shipley was out there, maybe catch a little wheel route, drop it off over the top. But then they have Barkley, so I don't know why they would do that.
You just wanted to get an ACC player in here somehow, didn't you?
That is accurate.
Well,
that is accurate.
That's what I figured.
I was thinking about Shipley as well, but the fact that we had Xavier Worthy show last night made me feel like no way we get 2 rookies popping off like that in 24 hours.
That's a fair point. Prop has Dallas Goedert, tight ends. I think always a good look. First touchdown, especially you get down there, close red zone, not close enough for the tush push, but you play action, flare them out. Goddard's easy there. You've got Romeo Dobbs. Dobbs.
Yeah. It took me a while to hit this last year, like a good few months to get on the board. So now we're going to get off to a much better start. Listen, Romeo Dobbs led the Packers in targets, receptions, and touchdowns last year. Among receivers, he had 8 of them. I wouldn't be upset if he scored first, and that got me on the board. And then you guys had to play catch up. So I'm good with that. Romeo at 14-1.
Hey, I'm here for the Romeo touchdown. I think it's my favorite anytime touchdown, but I was like, you know what? I gotta spread my wealth here. If I'm gonna go anytime for him, gotta change a first touchdown.
By the way, I had Noah Gray as the first touchdown scorer last night. Not even remotely close, right? A running back for the Ravens scores. However,
I was so close, guys.
Yeah,
I thought Isaiah Likely. I thought we were getting a little fake handoff to Henry. Isaiah Likely wide open in the end zone.
That's a great pick.
You pounded the table for Isaiah Likely. And you were like, obviously, if they come out in single tight end set, I'm moving out of the country. But I mean, they did. They were 2 tight end sets the whole time. Likely basically outsnap Mark Andrews. And
you have Mark Andrews on your fantasy team right now. You are punching air air right
now. But I had and I'll say this really quickly, we'll get out of here, but it was with Noah Gray, Pacheco. I needed the Pacheco anytime touchdown, so I was happy with it. But Noah Gray was like a yard away from scoring, and if he scores, I have a very weird DFS situation on my hand where I'm like vaulting to the top of the Millie Maker with the Noah Gray lineup. Didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. Let's recap. Props got Saquon Barkley over 65.5 rushing yards. This includes, by the way, the earlier show on Friday, the early edge. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Sia's got Packers team total over 23.5. Mike McClure is on the Eagles -2. He also, for whatever it's worth, gave out the Eagles first half on our Thursday show. Danny Brasco, Eagles Packers under 49.5. EC has Eagles money line and Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. And Ken's, I'll put you on the spot again to reel off the model picks, which you know.
Yes, the model picks. We are going Jordan Love. I've done this a few times this week, so now it's just like locked in the head. Yeah. Jordan Love under 22.5. I don't need to cheat, Jake. No need to put it up there. Jordan Love under 22.5 pass completions. Kenny Gainwell over 3.5 rush attempts. And Saquon Barkley over, at the time, 64.5 was the rush line. Could be updated now. Regardless, we like him up to 70, I'd say.
All right. Great show again. Fantastic stuff. We got about 10 minutes till kickoff. Go get your bets in. I'll tell my friend to go hammer the models anytime touchdown, maybe sprinkle some other stuff in there. And let's cash big. Tweet us the tickets. If you do, for Kens, for EC, for Prop, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys on Sunday night.